Whew, that was tough, brother. How you doing?
I've had better days. I've had better Monday mornings than this one. That was rough.
Yes.
And I think the worst part about it, and there's a lot that's bad. I think the worst part about it to me is it feels even worse than last week somehow.
Right.
And it shouldn't. Like we shouldn't be getting worse week to week, and it feels like we are.
No, you're absolutely right. Hey, today's episode is brought to you by Sonos. Sonos is the official sponsor of ESPN College Football. Go to Sonos.com to learn more. Yeah, let's talk about it. Because what we watched Saturday night was not good. And for the first part of the season, we were able to say, okay, the team is learning Mike Bobo's offense. We heard a lot the excuse of, well, the team's still learning Derek Mason's defense. If you do not know the scheme with the second to last week of the season, something is not right. Either the scheme is broken or the team has a hard time grasping what you're teaching them. Those are the two most likely options of what we're dealing with here. And at this point of the year, it should be fine. It should be solid. You can't do the whole year one thing anymore. Now, if you want to do that from a talent perspective, that is fine. I'm okay with that because it is not Harson's talent. It is not Mike Bobo's talent. It is not Derek Mason's talent. With the exception of the transfers and a few of the freshmen that are playing, which really the only freshman that comes to mind that really falls into this is Jarquez Hunter. Correct me if you think of somebody else that falls into this, Lindsay. But the rest are transfers. And that's not an excuse at this point in regards to the whole, okay, your last two games, you've lost now to teams that you were more talented than. So a message board poster at auburnlive.com, the corner message board, Hoax message board over there, I think he put it into words very well. I assume it's a he, it could be a she, but talked about how, okay, I thought that last week was a fluke, blowing the 28-3 lead against Mississippi State and Mike Leach. And that appears to not be the case. I mean, the second half for Auburn over the last few games have been terrible. I mean, you didn't score anything in the second half against A&M, and then you scored very little in the second half against Mississippi State, and then you did virtually nothing in the second half. Well, I guess you scored 3 in the second half against South Carolina. That's not good, Lindsay. And it's funny because early in the season, we're like, okay, if Auburn keeps it close at halftime, we trusted this coaching staff to make adjustments in the second half. We felt that way against Penn State. They kind of came on late. Georgia State obviously was one, but that appears to have been the actual fluke in all of this so far this season. And I don't want to be negative. I like Brian Harsin, and I really supported all these staff hires that he made, but something's not working. And at some point, you've got to change something.
One of the big things that I'm noticing as we go through, especially in this 3-game losing streak, which feels weird to say because I haven't had to say that in a long time, is there's a difference in the play calls when we open the game and we're going up against, we have our script on offense and on defense of what we want to do versus when the bullets are flying, what are we asking these players to do in real time? In this 3-game losing streak, scoring by quarter, first quarter, we've scored 31 points. Our opponents have scored 6. Second through fourth quarters, we've scored 23. Our opponents have scored 78. And like you said, virtually shut out in the second half against A&M. Mississippi State, barely scored at all in the second half. 3 against South Carolina.
Right.
And it's not, you can't blame the players. You had the benefit of the doubt as a coaching staff, and it could be, like you said, we're learning the scheme. It's year one. This late in the season, you can't blame the players.
Right.
It's your decisions. It's the plays that you're calling. It's what you are trying to do.
Yep.
And there's so many moments in the last few games, both offensively and defensively, where we've kind of stopped and said, what are you doing? Whether it's the play call on the fourth down that wasn't converted, whether it was Derek Mason refusing to send a fourth rusher against Mississippi State. There's all these moments when it's just painfully obvious that our coaching staff is just making the wrong play calls. And I don't think that's a thing you can just fix on the fly, short of firing somebody.
That's probably true. And we'll talk about game plan in a moment. But the whole, I'm not seeing people blame the players. I'm not saying it's not happening. but like I'm not really seeing that. Most of it seems to be directed at Harsin and the messaging that happened early in the season with Harson's in over his head and he's probably not an SEC caliber coach and all that. You're starting to see that come up, but you're starting to see it from within the Auburn fan base, and that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing at all. The chatter on message boards late Saturday evening and throughout the day Sunday is that he has lost the team. I'm not sold on that because I think, and it could just be the dudes that are being asked to talk to the media. I mean, they're repeating the same stuff that he's saying. So like there's some buy-in, whether it's, intentional or not, that's happening. So like, I'm not ready to say that he has lost the football team, but there's got to be something happening where it's like, this isn't working right now. What's happening isn't being successful. And these guys come to Auburn because they're told that they have a chance to win an SEC championship, and they do. And a few weeks ago, that was legitimate. A few weeks ago, if you beat A&M, you control your own destiny. And then even then, it's like, okay, well, if you take care of business against Mississippi State, South Carolina, then, win the Iron Bowl, you're in. And since then, Auburn hasn't won a football game, despite them being in a really good spot. That just didn't happen. And so that's tough. That's really, really tough. And I don't really know where you go from here in that regard unless you make a personnel change. And I don't know which direction you go with a personnel change. Lindsay, do you let both coordinators go? Do you make changes at both of the coordinator spots? Do you pick one over the other? I don't know. And even if Harsin wants to show loyalty by saying like, no, these are my dudes. These are the first hires that I made while I was the head man here at Auburn. Like that's fine and all. But from a recruiting standpoint, like this fan base is important. The fan base buy-in is important. And we felt it at Jordan-Hare Stadium. We talked about it last week. When you blow that lead, you feel hope being sucked out of the program. And to me, when you look at this Auburn football team right now, there is no hope whatsoever. And that obviously is a huge issue.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem right now facing this team. And you can't make, you can't make a major personnel decision before early signing day. Anybody who expects to hear on Monday morning that, hey, we're firing a coordinator, you're not going to get that. Okay. In the modern college football, you can't make a decision before early signing day. You have to get those recruits in because
last signing day, we didn't even have a head coach.
I know, but the guys that we're trying to bring in were recruited by these coordinators who are here. You can't let them go now. But I personally don't care if it's a position coach, it's an analyst, or somebody. The change that I want to hear Harsin talk about is the deficiency is with in-game play calling. And he needs to say either I'm going to bring the microphone down on my headset and jump in when they give a bad play call, like that fourth down call, or I'm going to give play calling responsibilities to somebody or acknowledge that is the issue.
Right.
Because the fans see it. We know. We're sitting here hollering at our TVs. They're running the same two plays the whole second half. Shane Beamer confirmed after the game. They were running essentially two plays all second half, and we couldn't stop it. And the players confirmed that too. Harsin even confirmed it. So I think that's the thing that can give Auburn fans a little bit of hope is if they can say this is an easily like a problem, an obvious glaring problem. We're going to at least make an attempt to acknowledge it and address it.
Right.
I don't know if that's going to help, but that's something you can do. And if you're going to talk about a 4th and 1 mentality, run the ball on 4th and 1. I know we're not there yet, but you got a 6'7" quarterback and a running back getting 7.5 yards a carry. Maybe don't throw the ball deep on 4th down.